For a long time, I've talked about the violence, the potential violence and realized violence coming from the right. I've talked about the dangers that Donald Trump poses, that the right poses for average American citizens doing their duty, whether that be people in Congress certifying an election, whether that be jurors serving on a jury, whether that be witnesses testifying when they're subpoenaed in a court case, whether that be the judge. In this case, though, it's the jury. And right now, reporting is being done. This is Donnie O'Sullivan from CNN, wrote this article. I want to read a little bit from it, talking about what they're finding on these bizarro, radicalized sites where people are now trying to find the identities and the locations of the jurors who just served on Donald Trump's jury. Ostensibly, for violence, at the very least, harassment. It's not for, well, we just want to know. It's just for informational purposes, that's all. They want to harm these people who just did their duty, heard the evidence, ruled as they saw, as is laid out in our jury system in the United States. Here's the headline. After Trump's guilty verdict, threats and attempts to dox Trump jurors proliferate online. On online forums that have previously been linked to mass shootings, people are threatening violence and attempting to publicly identify the 12 New York jurors who on Thursday decided to convict former President Donald Trump. The calls for retribution began immediately after the verdict was announced. Quote, hope these jurors face some street justice, one anonymous user on a pro-Trump forum wrote. Another suggestively asked, quote, wouldn't it be interesting if just one person from Trump's legal team anonymously leaked the names of the jurors? Anonymity is supposed to add a layer of protection for jurors doing their civic duty. Once reserved only for cases involving violent criminal enterprises, the practice is becoming more common. The judge in the Trump New York trial issued an order in March agreeing with prosecutors that most information about the jurors would be sealed. Trump's lawyers did not disagree, according to the order. And this is for good cause. This is the reason Donald Trump had a gag order placed on him, because they knew the potential for violence against people who didn't volunteer for the jury. Nobody volunteers. You get chosen at random. It's like a lottery. One juror was so afraid after they were identified by people in their lives who knew them, they said, I can't do this. This is too much. I fear for my safety. I fear for my family. And that's not the way it should be. Overnight, however, anonymous internet users on sites that are known havens of hate and harassment began sharing names, home addresses, and other personal information belonging to people they say might have been members of the jury, a practice known as doxing. This form of amateur online sleuthing, I don't know why they're calling it that, can lead to real-life security issues. For example, a commonly used tactic called swatting involves a caller making a bogus crime report intended to trigger a massive law enforcement response to the target's address. Now, here's the problem with these amateur online sleuths. Why are they calling them that? This is terrorism. They have a political objective. They want to strike fear with violence or the threat of violence against these people because of their political view. That's terrorism. That is domestic terrorism. But the problem with these amateur online sleuths, Donnie O'Sullivan, is the fact that they're often wrong. I mean, that's above and beyond the point that they should not be threatening actual jurors, but oftentimes because they're dunces, they're morons, they're feckless clods, they get it wrong. And someone that they're not even intending to target gets targeted, gets put in the crosshairs, literal and or figuratively. Now, I'm going to go on here. In the past, people whose personal information has been shared online in this way have been misidentified and sometimes have nothing to do at all with the issue at hand. Quote, unfortunately, social media has given rise to a whole generation of amateur sleuthing, come on with this, that lacks journalism standards and ethics, leading to countless examples of mistaken identities and wrongful accusations. Ben Decker, the CEO of Memetica, a threat analysis company, told told CNN Friday, quote, and this is the last statement, while the sleuthers, quit calling them sleuthers, these are terrorists. While the sleuthers themselves face few, if any, consequences, the victims of these accusations become the targets of violence, of violent threats, both on and offline, he added. Look, as someone who is the victim, is the target of violent threats, up to and including death for myself and rape and death for my wife, this is troubling. This is concerning. And all too often, it hasn't been the case in this latest death threat against us and threat of violence against us. They are taking action. There is an FBI case. There is an open DC Metropolitan Police Department case. But up to this point, it's fallen on deaf ears. I've had literal police in my living room ask me, are you really afraid? And if not, then the case goes nowhere. Well, the case went nowhere anyway. And I have to say, yes, I'm very afraid. This is terrible. This shouldn't be the case. And that's a fact. This should not be the case. You should not be at threat of doxing, of swatting, of violence, of political terrorism, because you answered your civic call to jury duty. We shouldn't have a system where only people who are unable to, whether it be not smart enough to con their way out of it, or have some other reason, only the people who can't get out of it to serve on a jury. Every one of us has a duty to serve on a jury when called, because when it comes your time to sit on a jury, you don't want only the people who weren't able to get out of it to be there. You want people who feel a civic duty, and they shouldn't be threatened. There shouldn't be violence waged against them, and these people should be held to account. The FBI should be out there right now, beating the streets, finding who these people are, and holding them accountable. What do you think? I would love to know. You can call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I would love to hear from you. If you want to help support me, make these videos, help me produce these videos, click the join button below, become a channel member for as little as $2 a month. You can go over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. The greatest way to support is to make sure you're subscribed, but another way is to go to my merch store. You can pick up shirts just like this one, different designs, and every purchase goes a long way to help support our work. I appreciate you very much. Follow me on social media if that is your thing. I am at Dollemore just about everywhere. I'd love to see you there. Give me your opinion there too. I love and appreciate you. Thanks for your engagement and your concern for making the world a better place. Be genuine. Take care of one another.